I see that most of the flow has come in already. My name is Emily Kravit. I am here representing Temple University, Rome. Welcome to our FAFSA Military Resources presentation today. We are so happy to have you, glad that you have joined. Welcome to all of the students, their families, all the counselors that are here. Everyone in this presentation are from various Department of Defense schools around Europe, so it's great to have everyone together and to learn a little bit just about the general university FAFSA and any military resources that can be offered for you. And this is hosted by Temple University, but this webinar is really intended to be a general resource for everyone. So whether you intend to apply to Temple University or any other university, hopefully this will be useful for you as students or you as family members or you as counselors. So I'm going to start with a quick introduction. As I said, my name is Emily. I'm the External Relations Coordinator here at Temple University, Rome. I'm joined by Francesca, who is the Associate Director of Student Life in the Rome Entry Year Program. She's also based here at Temple Rome with me. In addition, we have Cassie Drogos, who's the Assistant Director of Student Financial Services, who will be leading the portion about FAFSA and financial aid. We have Christy Furiosi, who's the Assistant Director of our Military and Veteran Services Center, as well as Deborah Powell-Wright, who is the Administrator at the Military and Veteran Service Center. So we are all very happy to be with you today. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, I invite you to write them in the Q&A, and at the end of the session, we will look through the questions and answer anything that you still might be curious about or be wondering. So before we get started on the bulk of the presentation, I'm going to give you a very, very brief introduction on Temple, just so you know who is speaking with you. So Temple University, we were founded in 1884. We are a large public research institution. We have about 27,000 students. We are Philadelphia's only public university, and Philadelphia is actually the 6th largest city in the US. And we are also an R1 Carnegie classification university, meaning that we're among the highest research activity in universities in the United States. In addition to that, we are in the top 50 public schools. We have 18 Division I athletic teams. We have over 300 student organizations, and we have over 9,000 jobs and internships posted per year for our students. So we have a lot of opportunities available. Temple seems like it is a large school, but it actually isn't as large as it might feel. So we have 17 schools and colleges, 12 of which are available for undergraduate students. And Temple being large with over 27,000 students, we have a 13-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So that means that even though there are a lot of students on campus, you have smaller class sizes and a lot of individualized attention. And in addition to that, one of the advantages of being at a large university is having a lot of options to choose from academically and a lot of resources. So students have over 150 majors to choose from, meaning that they have a lot of options to begin with and also a lot of options to explore. So if you are undecided or if you would like to explore different fields, we have many, many opportunities for classes in many different fields. In addition, we have campuses all around the world. Temple is a global institution. Francesca and I are speaking to you from the Rome campus, in addition to that of the main campus in Philadelphia. And we have a campus in Ambler, Pennsylvania as well, which is about a 40-minute drive from the campus in Philadelphia. And we have a campus in Tokyo, Japan. So I'm going to pass it off to Francesca to give you a little bit more information about the Rome campus, because I know that everyone is tuning in here in Europe. So you might be interested in coming to the Rome campus, to visiting, to just seeing an American setting here in Europe. So I will pass it on to Francesca to give you some information, and then we will get started on the bulk of the presentation and FAFSA and the military resources.
Thank you, Emily, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Now, I know that this session is primarily on military resources, so I don't want to steal time from my colleagues, but I still want to briefly introduce you to our Temple Rome Entry Year Program, as I think it can be an interesting way to start college, especially for students from military families who are stationed overseas. So the program has been running for 5 years, and it allowed students to spend their freshman year on our Temple Rome campus and then transition to main campus in Philadelphia on their sophomore year. And Emily, we can change slide. So a few highlights about the program. The program is small, and which means also it's very intimate. This academic year, we have a cohort of freshmen made of 15 students coming from 6 different countries. So it's very international. These 15 students have joined a population of 100 students coming from our main campus in Philadelphia. On normal times, we will have around, for normal times, I mean pre-pandemic, we will have around 200 to 300 students present here on our campus in Rome. So again, it is an intimate experience. It's definitely a smaller student population compared to the one that the freshmen will experience at main campus, which means for some students, it might also mean a smoother transition from a high school environment to a university environment. On the academic side, we offer more than 40 majors, mostly in the field of liberal arts, business, sport management, education, communication, and artistry. We have also just added biology and computer sciences as majors that can be started here at Temple Rome. But apart from the majors that we offer, our academics really focus on experiential learning and providing students with the opportunity to have hands-on experiences. So for example, most of our courses meet for part of the time on site here in our classrooms, but also for the other part of the time outside in the city. So there is a lot of experiential learning using Rome as our classrooms. We also have a number of academic excursions happening during the semester as part of the course, so that students have the opportunity to learn about specific aspects of a topic that they've been learning in the course on site from professionals of the field. I can make an example. So one of our modern art course, they just went to Venice for the Biennale of Art, and they had the opportunity to meet with the artists, to meet with the gallery managers, and to really see the Biennale, firsthand. So apart from this, we really care about encouraging students to have an immersive experience while they're here, to spend their time learning about the Italian language, the Italian culture. And for this reason, we do organize activities that aim in that direction. So helping students to meet more Italians and to learn more about the Italian way of life. So for example, we organize cooking classes, we have an Italian tutoring program, which brings Italian university students to TUR, and they help supporting the Italian courses and the Italian instructors in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. So all of this happens in our building here in the center of Rome. We are located on the banks of the Tiber River, just 5 minutes walk from Piazza del Popolo. We have a beautiful villa, quite old villa, so very characteristic for Rome. But our spaces inside have been all newly renovated. So we are very happy to provide students with the very modern facility and very modern equipment in terms of all of our art spaces, but also our classroom and our library and all of the common areas and the areas that students can use to study and just spend their time here on campus. So I hope this is an interest for you. We are available for any questions after the presentation. And this said, I'll pass it on again to Emily.
Grazie, Francesca. I'm going to pass it along to Cassie, who's going to talk about how to apply for financial aid.
Absolutely, thanks. Thanks for having me. Like Emily said, I'm an assistant director in student financial services, which is the financial aid office here on Temple. And so I'm going to go over the federal financial aid process and how it relates to Temple. So who is eligible for, oops, one too many.
Was this the first one?
I think it was the first one. Okay, so to apply for financial aid, the application is called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, the FAFSA. It's available at studentaid.gov. There is an app, it's called the My Student Aid app. It's available free in the Play Store and the App Store. It is only supported by Google and Android, or Google and Apple. So I think the BlackBerry is the only other one. Anyway, each individual college and university will have a priority deadline for filing. The FAFSA opens on October 1st every year. For Temple, our priority deadline is February 1st. That was our deadline last year. It's going to be our deadline next year and our deadline moving forward. So it's important that students can complete their FAFSA and include all the requisite information before the deadline passes. With it opening in October now, students have 4 or 5 months to meet the deadlines for schools, so there's still plenty of time to get it done. In terms of eligibility, you have to be either a US citizen or national or an eligible non-citizen, so a permanent resident with a valid alien registration number. Students have to have earned a high school diploma or equivalent, whether it's a GED, a state certificate, or have passed a comparable secondary education program. They need to be enrolled in an eligible degree or certificate program at an eligible college or career school. And there is a database of colleges and universities. You have to include the school's information so that we can receive a copy. And the existence of the school in that database will tell you if it's an eligible school. Students must also have a valid Social Security number. If they don't have a valid Social Security number, then this has to be done by paper and not electronically, and that will take a significant amount of time for it to be mailed, received, and processed. Once enrolled, students have to maintain what's called satisfactory academic progress to retain their federal financial aid and institutional eligibility. Basically, what this means is that students have to pass at least 2/3 of the credits and classes that they register for. Financial aid offices will let students know this is something we monitor. As long as you're going to class, passing your classes, it's usually not an issue. So like I said, there is an app. It's probably the easiest way to submit the application is right on your phone. This is a snapshot of what it looks like when you've pulled it up. And it's important to know about what we call prior year tax information. So the FAFSA used to be available on January 1st for the upcoming year. You would have to file it and estimate what your tax information was in order to meet those priority deadlines. Because W-2s don't come out until the end of June or end of January, and the priority deadlines are in February. So in 2017-18, the Department of Education changed when the FAFSA becomes available, and they pulled it back to October. So the FAFSA for 22-23 opened this month. So obviously you can't use this year's taxes. You have to use the next available year, which is 2 years prior. So they called it prior year. So for example, the year we're in right now, 21-22, is utilizing 2019's tax information. 22-23 is utilizing 2020's information. With that comes usually a lot of questions about special circumstances. Because there is a 2-year gap between when the income was earned, taxes filed, and when the FAFSA is filed, we understand, especially over the past year and a half, that there's been a lot of changes to families' incomes. There might also be issues with providing students' parents' data on the FAFSA. And so for both of these, I would recommend that you reach out to the financial aid office of the schools that you're applying to, check their website, send them an email, set up an appointment to get an, information about how those processes work. For us, we open our appeal process in early spring when we issue aid offers for admitted students. We have information on our website about all the different circumstances that we accept for appeal, and we give a brief rundown of how students can initiate the appeal, what kind of documentation we're looking for, and so on. And I only bring that up simply because the last year and a half have been really, really impactful on a lot of families. So it's important to make sure that you have your taxes done, that you file on time, and that you reach out to your financial aid office if you have any question about that data. So in order to complete the FAFSA, you need your biographical information. So, and I'm talking about students, but I'm also talking about parents here. The student and one of their parents will have to create a federal student aid ID. And for that, you need your full legal name as it appears on your social security card. You can't use nicknames. So if your full name is Richard, you cannot go by Rick or Rich. You have to go by Richard. If it's Samantha, you can't use Sam. You have to use the legal name on your social security card. It has to match the name that is also on your admissions application. Otherwise, sometimes there can be difficulty receiving and processing the information. You need your date of birth, and you also need your social security number. You need an email address, and it's important that because you need an email address that you can access for years to come. So don't use your high school email. Don't necessarily use your current college email if you're a transfer student, because you'll lose access to that email. And when you create your username, your information is checked against the Social Security Administration to make sure that it's valid and it matches up and you are who you say you are. And then they're going to lock it in with the email with that ID. So if you ever have to unlock your ID or reset your password, you'll need access to the email you used to create that ID, which is why I say don't use your high school email because you will need it for a very long time. You also need income and tax information. So like I said, under prior year, if you're filing the 22-23 FAFSA, you need your 2020 tax return, W-2s, and then information about assets, investments, if you have a college savings plan or any other income that you receive. There is a place for you to enter military non-education benefits. So it's important to have an idea of what that information is as well. You can always start the FAFSA and save it and come back to it if you realize that you need to collect some documentation. You don't quite have everything you need. But it's best to try to get it all together. And the studentaid.gov website will kind of give you an overview of what that is. A question in the chat of, can you use a parent email? So the student and the parent cannot share an email. You need to have a separate email for each person. You're not allowed to use the same email to access the ID because of the sensitive nature of information. So both the parent and the student need their separate emails. So really, there's only 5 steps to financial aid. I know this process can seem really overwhelming. And right now, especially if you are watching the news or reading the articles, you're going to start seeing a whole bunch of information about how complicated the process is. And really, you want to look for your free money first. That's knowing about scholarship opportunities at your colleges. It's getting your FAFSA filed. It's looking for outside scholarships. Talk to your advisors in high school or other organizations. You want to know your deadlines. File early. You don't have to wait for admission to file your FAFSA, and that's a common mistake we see. Is some students think they have to wait until they get into a college to file their FAFSA. You could file right now and have no idea where you're going next year, because you can add up to 10 schools on your FAFSA. You could take schools off, add schools on. You can make as many edits as you need to that until you figure out and decide what's the best fit for you. but it's better to have it done and filed early. There are some state grants that you might be able to apply for, and they have separate deadlines. So you want to make sure that you get in and know what you're looking for from both your schools, state organizations, and so on. Once you are admitted, you get a financial aid offer. It tells you how much the school is going to cost. It tells you how much financial aid they're going to give you. You want to compare those offers so that you're making the best decision for you. And then you want to make sure that you have all the money that you need in order to satisfy that cost of attendance. And this is where you might want to make an appointment with the financial aid office, talk to them about what the options are, have them clarify anything if you're not sure. Question from the chat is, will the same information be shared with both the student and the parent? So when you file the FAFSA, the student gets a copy of what's called the Student Aid Report, the SAR. If your tax information is manually typed in, the student has access to that information. This is the student's application for financial aid. That information is used to determine their eligibility, and so they can see it. Only the parents on the FAFSA can see that information. So if the parents are divorced and mom is on the FAFSA, dad cannot see that information unless someone, not us, not the schools, but like the student physically shares it with. If you use the data retrieval tool, which allows you to electronically transfer your tax information from the IRS to the FAFSA, for security purposes, all of that information is masked from both the student and the parents on the FAFSA. So in that case, only the schools can see the information that's reported on it. Although if you have your tax return, you should know you'll be able to see what's on it. Another question, if we are applying for FAFSA from the school year starting in fall 22, we use 2020 tax return. That is correct, yes. You will need your 2020 taxes for the fall 22 academic year. I think, pretty sure that was, and then we have contact information and some helpful links. Like I said, I'm in Temple's financial aid office. We have lots of information about this process on our website. We have recorded webinars that go over how to file the FAFSA. So if you're a visual person like me and you're looking for something to be a little more helpful in terms of what does this process look like, I would recommend taking a look at our webinars. Studentaid.ed.gov, FAFSA.gov are the websites for filing your federal applications. If any of you have a Pennsylvania connection, FIA is the Pennsylvania Higher Education Organization. We have some social media accounts and ways for you to get in contact with us. We would love for you to consider Temple, and we have appointments available with students or with staff virtually, phone or Zoom, that you can talk to a financial aid counselor. If you need help with your FAFSA, we can do that. One thing I forgot to put in the slides, but I was definitely thinking of this morning because there was an article in the news. Don't pay anybody to do your FAFSA. If you need help doing your FAFSA, contact the financial aid office. There are people out there who will charge you to do it, and I don't know why, because it's a free application. And this is the whole purpose of my existence. And we would much rather help you and walk you through it than have you pay someone who probably doesn't quite know what they're doing. It's a free application. It should never cost you money to do this. Sorry, that's a personal little annoyance I have about society. So.
All right, thank you, Cassie, so much. I think we actually have one more question. If you could answer that in the chat. Do you see it?
Sure.
Any recommendations on figuring out the value of a house for the FAFSA if you are stationed overseas and rent out your house stateside?
So that's a really great question. That is a fantastic question. So you don't list the value of your primary residence. So if you are overseas and you're renting out your house stateside and that house is not considered your primary residence, you can really go off of if you have a mortgage value or what your most recent property tax assessment is. Either of those figures are fine. I can tell you that as a financial aid, not quite secret. These aren't things that we'll request document. Most schools, Temple definitely won't, but most schools won't request documentation to confirm. There are some schools who use a form in addition to the FAFSA called the CSS profile and use an institutional method for determining financial aid eligibility. Those schools might request documents to confirm the value of your assets, but a lot of schools won't. So, just do the best you can based on your information. I think the calculation is the value of the home, your assessment, minus any debts owed on it. So if you're still paying a mortgage, obviously that wouldn't factor in. But I can keep answering questions in the chat if there's some.
I think while people are still thinking of questions, I'll pass it along to Christy and Deborah. And then at the end, if anyone has any other questions, then we can address them then. Thank you so much, Cassie.
Yeah, okay, I'll take it over. Can everybody hear me okay? I mean, I'm seeing, great. So I am Christy Furiosi. I am the Assistant Director for the Military and Veteran Services here at Temple. A little bit of background, I did transition off of active duty Army back in June. I was stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington, and I made the trek to Philadelphia at the beginning of August, and I've been employed here since September. So I'm a little bit new, and Deborah is, with me here, so she knows a bit more than I do. She's been working this position for a number of years, so I'm really hopeful that we can present you some information that'll be valuable. So the slide in front of you kind of just covers the wide array of GI Bill benefits that could be available to you. But since I'm talking to some parents and high school students and counselors, really what we're concerned with for dependents is Chapter 33, and that's the post 9/11 bill, and Chapter 35. So with Chapter 33, if you have whoever the service member is, if they want to transfer those benefits to, a spouse or a child, that's a simple transfer of entitlement, and that's handled through Milk Connect. And we don't really handle that. That is all done on the VA side, all done on the education assistance on your installation can help you walk you through those steps. But once you know what benefit you're eligible for, and once you transfer those benefits, then you can apply for the benefits to be used at Temple. And that's kind of where we take it from there. We take the benefits that you get and apply it to your tuition. So for Chapter 33, it's kind of dependent on the number of years you've served. You can be 50% eligible, you can be up to 100% eligible. And I'll kind of cover that in the later slides. So I guess next slide. So this is a super helpful tool. It is a VA comparison tool, and this is what you will use to kind of check out what benefit you think you're eligible for, and then you can see what Temple will offer you or what school, because this is a tool that you can use for any school that you're thinking about. For Temple specifically, and this, what I'm showing you is for the Chapter 33 post 9/11, and this is for 100%. If you are 100% eligible, you will have your full tuition and fees covered. You'll get a housing allowance monthly for $2,000, and you'll have a $1,000 book stipend a year. And again, if you're eligible 50%, those numbers will vary, 60%, 70%, up to 100%. And you can just use this tool to kind of see what benefits you'll be getting. If you're using Chapter 35, again, whatever you're eligible for, based on that contact with the VA, Chapter 35 gets a monthly stipend of $1,265. So one of the things that Deborah and I have kind of run into is folks see that they're getting a bill from the university and they see that the VA is paying the school directly. But one thing that the GI benefits does not cover directly is the cost of a dorm. So we have a lot of students who are like, wait a second, didn't the VA cover this? Aren't I good? But that's what that monthly allowance of $2,000, that's used to offset the cost of the dorm. So when you receive a bill for a dorm or a meal plan, that's kind of up to you. The VA pays you that money, that housing allowance monthly, but they do pay the school directly for tuition and fees. And again, this is all for Chapter 33. And Deborah, do you have anything to add on that one?
I do want to say, in line with what you're saying, you have to manage your own finances. So this monthly stipend, you get it every month. Your bill for housing, let's say is $5,000. You're getting a housing allowance of $2,000. The bill is due, whatever the due date is. So you manage your own finances in according to that. You're not going to get $5,000 all at one time to pay the $5,000 that you might owe for housing. So you want to manage your money accordingly.
And I do see a question in the chat, and it says, can we talk about the benefit for disabled veterans from 20 to 100%? So again, I'm not the expert on benefits. That's really through the VA and what your the education office on your installation will kind of go over. So I can't really tell you what benefit you will get. That is all determined through the VA. But I encourage you for your disabled vets, that's kind of chapter 35 covers, service-connected disabilities. And that's the dependent and survivor education assistance. But again, all of that is kind of handled through the VA. And if you want to, I guess, Deborah, do you have anything to add on that? Or if you want to email us directly?
You're saying it exactly right. How I like to advise students, and by the way, I've been at Temple for 8 years. And, as Christy said, she's just gotten here, but she's gotten her feet wet and, she's right on it. But I also want to clarify, we have a school certifying official. The school certifying official is actually the person who is responsible for processing the benefits. And I want to emphasize that. Christy and I do not process benefits. The school certifying official processes benefits. The school certifying official actually is trained through the VA. And so they are following the guidelines that the VA has set. And also, I want to emphasize that you, as a student, must know what you're entitled to. And again, we're processing it. We're not telling you what you're entitled to. We're processing the benefit based on the document, which Christy will talk about a little bit later, the document that you have to provide to us to let us know what you're entitled to. So to emphasize what she said, you have to start with the VA. They will let you know everything, and this tool is very helpful for you to understand what it is that you are eligible for. The drop-down menus there will, you put that information in, and that will determine what you're eligible for. And you can always speak to, if you are a service member, to your educational services officer.
Thank you, Deborah. And with that, if you folks have any, specific questions that you're not comfortable sharing on the screen, our email address, I don't have it on here. I will put it in the chat, but it is mvsc@temple.edu. And, we might be able, Deborah and I can kind of point you in the right direction, if not answer your question specifically. So
I did see a message in the chat asking if this tool is just applicable to Temple University. No, it is not.
Yeah, this is a VA.gov tool that can be applied to any university.
Mhm.
So the screenshot on the screen is specifically Temple University, and then specifically for chapter 33. Okay, I think we can go to the next screen. Okay, so yellow ribbon. This is Temple University is a yellow ribbon school. And so that means, if you are out of state, the VA will kind of match that. They'll cover the charges that Temple University does not cover for the post 9/11. And so eligibility for the yellow ribbon is determined solely through the VA, but for undergraduates at Temple, all undergraduates are eligible to apply for the yellow ribbon program. Deborah, did I cover that well?
So I just want to tweak it a little bit.
Thank you.
You are not actually applying to yellow ribbon, and as it has on the screen, is to offset the out-of-state tuition charges. You are either eligible or you are not. And again, this is something that is determined by the VA, but we are a yellow ribbon school. And so if you are eligible based on what it says here, student must be eligible for the maximum benefit rate of the post 9/11 bill and not currently on active duty. And so we will process it because the VA will do a match of the difference of out-of-state charges. Essentially, that's what it is. So you don't have to apply, and some students, we have a form on the website, which Christy will get to. Even if you don't know, we will see based on where you live and what your eligibility is. So it's really a yes or no once we see your documents. So you might say, yes, I'm getting yellow ribbon. And for undergraduate, as Christy said, that is the case. The graduate schools, because they cost much more at Temple University, they have caps. For example, let's say the Fox School of Business might have a cap for 5 students, graduate level students. But across the board, all undergraduates who are eligible will receive the yellow ribbon funding.
See, Deborah knows all. So yeah, next slide. Now we're going to cover Pennsylvania Act 11, which kind of, it parallels the Yellow Ribbon program. So basically, Pennsylvania Act 11 is designed to grant in-state tuition for any of the folks using those benefits, 30, 31, 33, 35, who reside in Pennsylvania. So declaring residence in Pennsylvania is a little bit, there's steps to do that, and it takes some time. But with this act, if you are residing in Pennsylvania, and this could be through a residence hall, one of the university dorms, or just have an off-campus house, or if your parent is, or whoever is currently stationed on, in Pennsylvania, this will apply to you, and this will grant you in-state tuition. Mm-hmm. And this is a form that you apply through, if you do decide to go to Temple. This is all managed, again, by our school certifying official, and there's easy steps to do so on Temple's portal for, I guess, all academic affairs.
Right. And as it says there, students do not have to be using their benefits. We just need to know that you are eligible for any of those benefits that are listed, which again means that you have to provide the document to us through your TU portal that you will receive from the VA once you apply for your benefits.
Awesome. I think we're going smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
So Temple, again, we have the main campus itself has just a robust network of services for veterans. And I'm in a process of transition myself. I did go to Temple University for my undergrad. I went through their ROTC program, so I'm very familiar with these programs. But for folks who are transitioning, for children or spouses who are transitioning to higher education and have that background of some type of military connectedness. I don't know if that's a word. There's resources out there. And so, we have Tuttleman Counseling, we have Career Center, university housing, like I said, with the dorms in Pennsylvania Act 11. And then one of my favorites, and Deborah and I work very closely with Temple Veterans Association, and they are a fantastic student-run organization full of veterans, and they are really inviting of dependents, and they just provide peer connection, resources, events, and all that you could possibly, want from a peer group, and just, I guess, a safe space. I don't want to say safe space, but, just that familiarity of folks who are going through something similar. And with that, again, I say we do have a physical space on main campus. It is in a beautiful building. It's on the 6th floor of Conwell Hall with a view of the skyline. And this is a space for veterans or dependents who can go to. We have free printing, we have a lounge, we have CAC readers, which are important because some students on campus need to print orders or certificate of eligibilities or what have you, and need access immediately. And not only that, but Deborah's there and I'm there to help students on a case-by-case basis. So just one of the allures to the Military Veteran Services Center on main campus. And I think this might be the last slide because I think I sent the shortened version. But Deborah and I are also having a virtual information session on November 5th that goes over more in depth how to take the benefits you got from the VA and apply them to Temple University. So I'm just going to cover that briefly now. So when you apply for your benefits through the VA, they will send you a certificate of eligibility. And what that is just a very black and white, these are the benefits you are eligible for. And we take that, the school certifying official says, great, the student is registered for classes at Temple, and they certify it. And that's, you know, signals to the VA to release the funds, and your academic financials will be taken care of. But really what Deborah and I are here for are to make sure that that process goes smoothly, to answer any questions that students have, because it is a bit of a bureaucratic process, and dealing with the VA can be challenging because, you know, any typo in paperwork can offset those. One of the common mistakes we see is that a dependent will get the certificate of eligibility from the VA, but it is in the name of the actual service member and not their own. So that's one thing to watch out for when you're getting those certificate of eligibilities. But Deborah, if you want to add anything else.
No, I think what you said there is absolutely significant. So, you know, when there is a veteran who is passing on that benefit to a spouse or a dependent, everyone has to apply for their own benefit. So the veteran is applying for the benefit, transferring the benefit to their dependent or their spouse, and then the dependent must apply for the certificate of eligibility. That is the way that it comes in their name and not the parent's name, because we cannot process the benefit under the parent's name if the dependent or the spouse is using the benefit. So that's just one thing that you really want to be mindful of. And as Christy said, that only actually applies to Chapter 33. That's the only benefit that can be transferred. All the other benefits are for whoever they are designated for.
So I do see a question in the chat. I am a PA resident, but I'm not assigned a PA unit. Does my dependent still qualify for Act 11? So I'm guessing your home of record is Pennsylvania. And this one's kind of a wonky one. Deborah, would you know this answer?
Can you say that question again? I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So someone says that they are a PA resident, but not assigned to a PA unit. Does my dependent still qualify for Act 11?
Act 11, the dependent, the person who is using the benefit must reside in Pennsylvania. It's really that simple. Whether you live here or not, you could be stationed wherever. But if the dependent using the benefit is residing in Pennsylvania using one of these benefits, then they are eligible for the PA Act 11. We had a student yesterday who, because we're looking at the document, so we often ask, and the student actually resides in New Jersey. He's you know, going to Temple University, but he actually lives in New Jersey. He's not eligible for the PA Act 11. I hope that answers the question.
I think you guys covered I learned a lot. I didn't know a lot of this information, so I hope that everyone who's attending tonight was able to gather some information relevant to themselves, relevant to their sons or daughters who are applying to universities. I just saw one last question. I know that Cassie answered it in the chat, but I just wanted to read it out loud in case no one is reading the Q&A. The question was, I will be the only one observing, this is a parent, I imagine that is writing, I will be the only one absorbing the cost. I would like to know if I will get the information regarding the award or no award for FAFSA. Is this called the family financial responsibility? And Cassie wrote, even though the parents may be absorbing the costs, everything is done in the student's name, and federal privacy laws dictate how information is conveyed to students and parents. We invite parents in as much of the information as possible, but the aid offer is sent directly to the student, as is the student aid report. So I hope that was helpful. If anyone has any other questions, whether it is for Cassie or for Christy and Deborah, please feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we can answer them in the last few minutes that we have. If not, you can feel free to go on our websites to learn more specifically about Temple. We also have our email for the Rome campus here. So if anyone has any other questions, you can email us and we can direct you to the correct person or the correct office. Christy just put their email in the chat as well, so you can feel free to reach out to them with any questions about any military benefits that you might get or any questions that you may have about the slides that they covered. If you scan the QR code, it leads you to a forum where if you would like to know more information specifically about Temple, not just in general, then you can feel free to scan that and subscribe to more information about deadlines and updates and what's happening on campus. But besides that, I see Cassie has also written her email in the chat too. So please feel free to reach out to any one of us. If we can't answer your questions, we will point you in the right direction. And even if you are not planning on applying to Temple, please feel free to reach out to us and we will help you as much as we can. I really appreciate everyone coming today. It's been a pleasure getting to talk with everyone across Europe and having everyone come together. So I'm really excited that we were able to do this presentation. I actually see a couple more questions coming up. One more. Who is supposed to fill out the My Student Aid and FAFSA, the parent or the student? That would be for Cassie.
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's done together, actually. The student will initiate the application, does the student portion of information, and then there's a section where the student can enter the parent's information, or the parent can log in directly and add their information, transfer their tax information or type it in, whichever is more convenient for you. And then it has to be signed by both the parent and the student if the student is considered dependent. And so it's, honestly, if you are together, it's easiest to do it on the app. You can literally sign in as the student, sign out, hand the phone to the parent, and the parent signs in and does their piece of it. You can do it on the computer. I work a lot with our student athlete population, and so I like to set up Zoom calls, and I'll have the student doing it on their end, and then I'll have mom or dad on the other Zoom, and we'll get them logged in and do it together. But it does have to be done by both. So usually the information gets shared a little bit, and that's something, like I said, our office is happy to help you with if you need any assistance at all in getting your ID set up, getting your FAFSA filed, or just general questions.
Thank you, Cassie. If there are no more questions in the chat, thank you all again for coming. And again, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any other questions going forward. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. And a good afternoon to those in Philly.